Hello everyone, my name is Mick Stott and I created the Guardians 300. I just thought that I'd create a short video in the way of an introduction just to explain our concept, our way of thinking, and more importantly, our doing. So a little bit about me. I mean, my background, I spent 30 years in the British Army as a member of the Army Physical Training Corps, which is an elite group of people. My main job was to create programs that develop people in terms of their mindset and their physicality to go and fight war. That was the bottom line, really. And of course, a lot of the programs that I created that are still used by the forces today. I have no doubt that there's been a little bit of tweaking here and there, but essentially the basic frameworks and the essence is still in place. I also held some pretty prestigious appointments during my time in the military. I was the de facto adjutant to the Senior Master at Arms Army Physical Training Corps, and I was also the SO2 Adventurous Training that served at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst. So I've been around leadership an awful long time, and I've also seen great leadership and I've seen examples of poor leadership. Equally, because of the nature of my role, I'm very, very aware of behavioural conditioning. And when I returned from Asia in April 2019, what I was observing was a change in energy. It was almost like something, it was like the calm before a storm. And as I started to see people change and being squeezed behaviourally, these were the types of things that started to unnerve me. Later that year, I got in touch with a lady called Dolores Cahill, and I then went and saw one of the speeches that took place at Trafalgar. It was at that point that I had a real reality sandwich of what was going on. It didn't really help also seeing the speech from Boris Johnson, his address to the UN in 2019, because what that did from my perspective is in absolute plain view. What it did was it laid out his roadmap for exactly where we were going. And this is why we could literally at that moment in time pretty much predict each step of what's taking place right now, which no one could have known then had they not had those insights and understood that what Boris was doing was literally laying out the future. As I then started to dig, I started to look at the EU defence strategy and see that we lost our sovereignty on the 1st of January 2021 on the back of Brockbank, Robbins and Langley, who basically signed us up to a number of EU contracts just after Brexit, which is ironic when you think about it. The whole point of Brexit was to maintain sovereignty or to retain it, re-establish it, but clearly that didn't happen. And so I knew that something wasn't right, and that we were being conditioned. And of course, at that point, I decided to join the World Freedom Alliance. And I joined the World Freedom Alliance, and I helped them with some of the security and communication elements of their function. Went away to join them in Sweden, Denmark, and of course since then I've supported them, not quite as closely because of just the sheer intensity of what it is that we've managed to create. We did a number of strategies that were top-down strategies, and these top-down strategies included notices of liability, and they were done to great effect. I personally served the Surgeon General of the Army, the British Army, British Forces actually, and told him that whatever he does in office with our serving personnel going forwards, he's going to be personally responsible for, which we all know the power of that notice of liability. And it also acted as a point of reference in history where they would be held accountable. But essentially what I then started to recognise was that this wasn't enough, and what we needed to do was to create a bottom-up approach. You know, if you look at war fighting, and I do believe we're in a war. We're in a war because we're losing freedoms at a pace that has never been done before. We are being censored at a level that we've never been censored before. And if you look at the emails, the diktat that was put out by Ofcom in February 2020, you'll realise why the mainstream media do not report anything outside of the government narrative, which is not reporting. And it's not reporting at all. They end up being the propaganda arm for the government, which is no use. We're not used to that. We're a democracy. And access to open debate and both sides of any story is essentially the premise on which we stand. So, of course, I realised that we needed to create a bottom-up approach. Warfighting is about momentum and it's about strategy. And so I then decided that what we needed was a system that could literally embrace that concept. I got introduced to common law possibly, I'd say, about a year ago. And I didn't really know it existed. So I was pretty new to this. I went and attended a 2-day program and listened to a couple of guys talk with a group of people from Cornwall. And it really started to wake me up. It started to wake me up to the fact that in reality, this used to be taught in our schools, but it no longer is for no apparent reason, but obviously why it's not anymore. And you know, when I started to see that we were losing what are basically our inalienable freedoms. These are things that are not given to you by governments or anyone. They're yours by right of birth, by the very nature of the fact that you're born into this world. They're divine rights, essentially, but essentially the right to gather peacefully, the right to earn a living and keep your family, the right to have freedom of speech and freedom of thought, to defend yourself, to withdraw consent where tyranny is present, and certainly tyranny is present. You know, the more important ones, to maintain bodily integrity. If I look at the British Army, if I look at the veterans, these are the types of things they fought for. Look at the Nuremberg Code. The Nuremberg Code was established so that no one else could conduct a trial on humanity. And if that's not what is going on today, then I'm missing the point. You know, we have the right to say no, and we've lost this freedom at this moment in time. Because if I look at the education gap that currently exists within the people, it also exists within the police force. The police force changed to police force when we joined the European Economic Community under Edward Heath. Constabularies became forces. Now, if you look at those two words, one is constitutionally able to carry out his duties as a policeman or policewoman, and the other is a force. And of course, we've noticed a change in what they do and when they do it. And this all adds up to one simple thing, that for us to lose our freedoms, there have to be agents that are prepared to be the perpetrators of that. And that's literally what the police are turning into. Now, we want to prevent that because we want the police to be on our side. We want the police to represent us. We want them to be for us, which was the whole point of what King Alfred did. He created 4 basic principles. And when I got introduced to common law and I heard those 4 basic principles, to cause no harm, loss or injury and be honourable in your contracts, for me, that's really, really quite simplistic. And of course, the legal system has made this very, very complicated for a reason. So the whole point of us creating the Guardians 300 was to literally empower communities. I personally don't care whether someone wants to use the Guardians 300 logo or their badge to do anything. I'm more interested in giving them access to all of the information that's available out there for common law, as Alfred would have done. And interestingly enough, my last tour was at the Army Training Regiment Winchester, and the presentation item I got when I left was a statue of King Alfred. Little did I know then how pertinent he would be in my life as I went forwards. So we're taking things back to basics. We want people to learn what we've got, to use the templates that we are creating around advocacy and common law, and we want those people to have access to those and to literally put those out in their communities and empower their own communities. We want to demonstrate that there is unity in community, in re-establishing the family unit, in reconnecting with everyone. And of course, this is contrary to what the government are currently trying to achieve. And so to that end, we created a number of programs. We created the Sovereign Programme, which is designed to give you all the basics that are required, that if you then want to take things forward, you could come and attend a Peace Constable training. This will then give you the basic ingredients to stand in your own power and defend other people. Now remember, that's not the finished job, because ultimately, as with every award that you get your L plates before you start, and then once you've got your L plates, off you go and you learn more and more. And for that purpose, we have regional coordinators and mentors that will be helping you understand more as you get involved more. But the key factor is here. We actually want to empower you as the individual. We want you to stand in your own power so that you can use some of these skills to do just that. Now, of course, we also produce trainers. We've currently got quite a significant number of trainers. And we want these trainers literally to get out there and train and empower other people under the Guardians banner or not. We're not really interested whether they do or they don't. We only ask that if you want to represent the Guardians, if you want one of our warrant cards, then we need to be able to access your information just so that we can harness and utilise you when it comes to us literally defending businesses and or communities as we go forwards. We also realise that there's a gap of information in what in your rights to defend yourself. So we created a number of programs that we're going to wheel out very shortly around conflict management strategy, which is the same system that the police use, essentially. We're showing you that in reality, someone doesn't have the right to come up and hit you with a baton or a stick just because they wear a uniform. If you're acting lawfully and you're standing peacefully, there is no reason for them to do so. And so what are your rights? What can you do to prevent that? That's what the conflict management strategy programs are about. And we have 3 levels to those. So those will be very, very attractive because these are about developing your confidence to stand as a peace constable in peace and honour using the law. That's the whole point of it. I can tell you now, dictatorships are not got rid of by attacking them with aggression. They are got rid of by producing a system that is so attractive and commensurate with communities at the level of peace, strength and honour that people are just drawn to it. Now, when you add to that the capacity to be able to connect with a financial system that is outside of the current system, then that becomes a very, very powerful model. We're only interested in producing a model that some people want to follow or to buy into at the level of its philosophy and application. And if you don't, then that's fine. There's absolutely no problem with that. Now, all the programs that we're busy running out, there are absolutely no profits made from these programs. There's a nominal fee for trainers to travel and for also their time to deliver things. And I'm talking nominal. And so if you question that, that's absolutely fine because basically our accounts are transparent on the website and we're happy to furnish anyone with any copy of the accounts should they wish to see them. So there's absolutely no problem with that. Now, we intend to train warranted peace constables and we intend to train those and create county-wide constabularies just so that we can look at getting this momentum rolling. Because as we get the momentum of common law spreading and people start to understand their basic freedoms, and more importantly, they get out there doing something to change the direction of this, I believe that is the winning strategy. It's worth remembering that the government don't govern without our consent. The police don't police without our consent. And I think that they've forgotten that. They would like you to believe that in reality you do what they say. That's totally against everything that Alfred stood for. It's totally against everything that we should stand for. Because as a veteran, I can say this. The only reason I signed up was to be a defender of my community, of my people, to represent my country wherever I went in the light of the protection of democracy. How naive was I when I look back at the people that were perpetrators of some of the things that we got involved in. But that's naivety. When the naivety disappears and the awareness comes, and believe me, I do believe that this situation is creating more awareness around our own power. And the moment we step into it, then the sooner we change this. I don't care whether you're a member of any other organisation, if you are literally adding to the energy that changes the momentum of this in the direction of peace, honour, and the people and the communities, then I don't really care what you do. And I will support anyone and collaborate with anyone that is doing that. Of course, there are people out there that are trying to sabotage things. Well, guess what? When you go into battle, you fly your colours. And that's simply what we are doing. We are flying our colours. As far as I'm concerned, when we start to maintain our freedoms and we say no, we then have the right to protest lawfully, which should never have been taken away from us anyway. And of course, the government are applying acts and statutes. And without consent, they're not lawful. So we have to remember that this is our power. And to finish, I just want to say to you, that we are the Guardians. We are restoring the law with peace and honour, because that's what the people have requested, and that's what the people are going to get. So if you're the type of person that really wants to make a difference, if you want to make a change, and you're prepared to defend, you're prepared to stand in peace and honour, and apply all the basic premise of common law, then join us. Come and join us. You can stick with us, you can become a trainer, you can become a peace constable, or you can train and you can empower your own communities, whichever serves you best. Remember, from the people for the people. If we don't apply that, then at this point, if we don't come together to apply that, then we're doomed. It's quite simply, that is the final message. So let's gather force, let's stick together, let's make sure that everything that we do goes in the direction of winning this. And I'm sure at the end of it, we'll have one great gathering where we can celebrate what we did to change the direction of what is currently nothing less than tyranny.